2 Chronicles chapter 1. Now Solomon the son of David firmly established himself over his kingdom, for Adonai his God was with him, and made him exceedingly great. Solomon spoke to all Israel, to the commanders of thousands and of hundreds, to the judges, and to every leader in all Israel, the leading patriarchs. And Solomon and the whole assembly with him went to the high place that was at Gibeon, for the tent of meeting of God was there, which Moses the servant of Adonai had made in the wilderness. Now David had brought up the ark of God from Kiriath Jearim to the place that David had prepared for it, because he had pitched a tent for it in Jerusalem. But the bronze altar that Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, had made was there in front of the tabernacle of Adonai. And Solomon and the assembly inquired of him there. So Solomon went up before Adonai to the bronze altar that was at the tent of meeting, and offered 1,000 burnt offerings on it. That night God appeared to Solomon and said to him, "Ask, what should I give you?" Solomon answered God, "You have shown great loving kindness to my father David, and now you have made me king in his place. Now, Adonai Elohim, let your word to my father David be fulfilled, for you have made me king over a people as numerous as the dust of the earth. Now give me wisdom and knowledge, that I may go out and come in before this people, for who can govern this great people of yours?" Then God said to Solomon, "Since this was in your heart, and you have not asked for riches, possessions, or honor, nor for the life of those who hate you, and have not even asked for a long life, but have asked for wisdom and knowledge for yourself, so you can govern my people over whom I have made you king, wisdom and knowledge will be given to you. Moreover, I will give you riches, possessions, and honor, such as none of the kings who were before you ever had, and none after you will have." Then Solomon went to Jerusalem from the high places that was at Gibeon, from in front of the tent of meeting, so he reigned over Israel. Solomon accumulated chariots and horsemen. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, which he stationed in the chariot cities and with the kings in Jerusalem. The king made silver and gold as plentiful in Jerusalem as stones, and cedars as plentiful as sycamore in the foothills. Solomon's horses were imported from Egypt and from Keve. The king's merchants purchased them from Keve at a price. They imported a chariot from Egypt for 600 talents of silver, and a horse of 150. So by the same means they were exported to all the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Aram. Then Solomon vowed to build a house for the name of Adonai, as well as a royal palace for himself. Chapter 2. Solomon recruited 70,000 men as carriers, 80,000 as stone cutters in the mountains, and 3,600 supervisors over them. Then Solomon sent word to Huram, the king of Tyre, saying, "Deal with me as you did with my father David, when you sent him cedars to build a house to dwell in. Behold, I am about to build a house for the name of Adonai my God, and to dedicate it to him for burning fragrant incense before him, for regular arrangement of the bread of the presence, and for burnt offering every morning and evening, as well as on the Shabbatot, new moons, and Moadim of Adonai Eloheinu. Upon Israel this is forever. The house that I am about to build will be great, because our God is greater than all the gods. But who is able to build him a house, since the heavens, even the highest heavens, cannot contain him? Who then am I that I should build him a house, except to burn incense before him? So now send me a man skilled to work in gold and silver, bronze and iron, and in purple, crimson, and blue yarn, and experienced in engraving, to work in Judah and Jerusalem with the skilled men who are with me, whom my father David provided. Send me also cedar, evergreen, and algum logs from Lebanon, for I know that your servants are skilled in cutting timber in Lebanon. Indeed, my servants will work with yours to prepare an abundance of timber for me, because the house that I am about to build will be large and magnificent. Now behold, I will give to your servants the woodsmen who cut the timber, 20,000 measures of ground wheat, 20,000 measures of barley, 20,000 vats of wine, and 20 vats of oil. Then King of Huram of Tyre replied in a letter that he sent to Solomon, because Adonai loves his people, he has made you king over them. And then Huram continued, Blessed be Adonai, the God of Israel, who made heaven and earth. He gave King David a wise son, endowed with insight and understanding, who will build a house for Adonai and a royal house for himself. So now I'm sending Huram Abi, a skilled man endowed with understanding, who is the son of a woman from the daughters of Dan, and whose father was a man from Tyre, a man skilled to work in gold and silver, bronze and iron, stone and wood, in purple and blue, fine linen and crimson, and to engrave all kinds of engraving, and who can execute any design given to him. He will work with your skilled men and with the skilled men of my lord David your father. Now let my lord send to his servants the wheat and barley, the oil and wine he has promised, and we will cut as many logs from Lebanon, as much as you need, and float them in rafts by sea to Jaffa. You can then take them up to Jerusalem. Solomon counted all the foreign men in the land of Israel, like the census that his father David had taken, and 153,600 were found. He appointed 70,000 of them to carry loads, 80,000 to quarry stones in the mountains, and 3,600 overseers to supervise the people working. Chapter 3. Then Solomon began to build the house of Adonai in Jerusalem, in Mount Moriah, where Adonai appeared to his father David, at the place that David appeared on the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. He began to build on the 2nd day of the 2nd month, in the 4th year of his reign. Now the foundation Solomon laid for the building of the house of God was 60 cubits long and 20 cubits wide, according to all the old standard. The porch in front of the house along its width was 20 cubits, and its height was 120 cubits, and the inside was overlaid with pure gold. He paneled the main hall with cypress wood, which he overlaid with fine gold, and embossed on it palm trees and chains. He adorned the house with precious stones, and the gold he used was gold from Parvaim. Furthermore, he overlaid the beams and thresholds, walls, and doors of the house with gold, and carved cherubim on the walls. He made the Holy of Holies, its length corresponding to the width of the house, 20 cubits long and 20 cubits wide. He overlaid it with 600 talents of fine gold. The weight of the nails was 50 shekels of gold. He also overlaid the upper rooms with gold. Next, he made 2 sculptures cherubim in the Holy of Holies, and overlaid them with gold. The wingspan of the cherubim was 20 cubits. One wing of the first cherub was 5 cubits long, and touched the walls of the house, while the other wing, also 5 cubits long, touched the wings of the other cherub. Similarly, one wing of the second cherub was 5 cubits long, and touched the walls of the house, while the other wing, also 5 cubits long, touched the wing of the other cherub. Thus the wingspan of those cherubim was 20 cubits. They stood on their feet, facing the main hall. Furthermore, he made the veil of blue, purple, crimson yarn, and fine linen with cherubim worked into it. Into the front of the house he made 2 pillars, 35 cubits high, each with a capital on the top measuring 5 cubits. He made interwoven chains for the inner sanctuary, and put them on top of the pillars. He also made 100 pomegranates, and attached them to the chains. He erected the pillars in front of the temple, one to the south and the other to the north. The one to the south he named Yachin, and the one to the north Boaz. Chapter 4. Moreover, He made a bronze altar 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 10 cubits high. He also made the sea of cast metal 10 cubits across from the brim to brim, perfectly round. It was 5 cubits high, and its circumference was 30 cubits. Beneath it, figures like bulls were set all around it, 10 cubits encircling the sea. The bulls were in 2 rows cast in one piece with it. The sea stood on 12 bulls, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. The sea rested upon them, and their hind quarters were all turned inward. It was a handbreadth thick, and the brim was like the brim of a cup, like a lily blossom. It held 3,000 vats. He also made 10 basins for washing, and placed 5 on the right side and 5 on the left. In them the items used for the burnt offering were rinsed, but the Kohanim washed in the sea. Next he made the 10 menorot of gold in the manner prescribed for them, and set them in the temple, 5 on the right hand and 5 on the left. He also made 10 tables and placed them in the temple, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left. He also made 100 gold bowls. Then he made the courtyard of the Kohanim, and the great courtyard, and doors for the courtyard. He overlaid the doors with bronze. He set the sea on the south side at the southeast corner. Huram also made the pots and the shovels and the bowls. So Huram Abi finished the work that he had undertaken for King Solomon in the house of God. The 2 pillars, the bowls and the 2 capitals on the top of the pillars, and the 2 lattice works to cover the 2 bowls of the capitals that were on top of the pillars, and the 400 pomegranates for the 2 lattice works, 2 rows of pomegranates for each lattice work to cover the 2 bowls of the capitals that were upon the top of the pillars. He also made the stands, the basin upon the strands, and the 1 sea with the 12 bowls under it, as well as the pots, the shovels, and the meat hooks. All the utensils Huram Abi made for King Solomon for the house of Adonai were of polished bronze. The king had them cast with clay earth from the Jordan Valley between Succoth and Zeredah. Solomon made all these utensils in such great quantities that the weight of the bronze could not be determined. Solomon also made all the furnishings that were in the house of God, including the golden altar, the tables on which the bread of presence, the menorot with their lamps of pure gold to burn in front of the inner sanctuary as prescribed, with the flowers and the lamps and the tongs of gold, the purest gold, and the snuffers, the bowls, the spoons, and fire pans of pure gold, and the doors of the house, the inner doors for the Holy of Holies, and the doors of the house, that is, the temple, were of gold. Chapter 5. When all the work that Solomon undertook for the house of Adonai was finished, Solomon brought in the things David his father consecrated, the silver, gold, and all the furnishings, and put them in the treasuries of the house of God. Then Solomon gathered to Jerusalem the elders of Israel, all the heads of the tribes, and the patriarchal leaders of Bnei Israel, in order to bring up the ark of the covenant of Adonai from the city of David, which is at Zion. All the men of Israel gathered together to the king at the feast that is in the 7th month. So all the elders of Israel came, and the Levites took up the ark and brought up the ark and the tent of meeting, along with all the sacred furnishings that were in the tent. The Levitical Kohanim brought them up. Meanwhile, King Solomon and the entire congregation of Israel who gathered with him before the ark were sacrificing so many sheep and bulls that they could not be counted or numbered. The Kohanim brought in the ark of the covenant of Adonai to its place into the inner sanctuary of the house, into the Holy of Holies, under the wings of cherubim. The cherubim spread their wings over the place of the ark, so that the cherubim covered the ark and its poles from above. Now the poles were so long that the ends of the poles extending from the ark could be seen in front of the inner sanctuary, though they could not be seen from outside, and they are there to this day. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets that Moses had placed there at Horeb, where Adonai made a covenant with Bnei Israel when they came out of Egypt. And it came to pass when the Kohanim came out of the holy place, for all the Kohanim that were present had consecrated themselves, without regarding to divisions, all the Levite singers, Asaph, Heman, Jeduthun, their sons, and their relatives, dressed in fine linen with cymbals, harps, and lyres, were standing at the east end of the altar. With them were 120 Kohanim blowing trumpets. Then it came to pass that when the trumpeters and singers joined as one to extol and praise Adonai, and when the sound of the trumpet, cymbals, and musical instruments, and the praise of Adonai, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever, grew louder, the temple, the house of Adonai, was filled with a cloud. The Kohanim could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of Adonai filled the house of God.